Hey y'all, today I thought I would share with you how to make a tree skirt into a lady skirt. There's so many stinking cute tree skirts out there that I just can't stop making them into lady skirts. My tips for you to get started is to find a tree skirt that's about 48 inches in length. You can find tons on Amazon, that's where I found my pink one, or search eBay, that's where I found these vintage numbers and turn them into lady skirts. The first thing you'll want to do is iron out your tree skirt. And I saw in the comments for the skirt that the wrinkles just wouldn't come out. Well, let me just say this. Get you some Niagara spray. That stuff will take wrinkles out of anything and use an iron on steam. Notice I ironed it on the back just because I wasn't sure if the synthetic fabric was going to get scorched. Thankfully, it didn't. The reason behind all my perplexed expressions is because I'm trying to remember how to make a tree skirt into a lady skirt, because in the past I used a pattern, but this time I wanted to share with you how to do it without a circle skirt pattern. So that's what I was thinking about. The first thing you'll want to do is fold your skirt in half at the two openings and go ahead and pin it together so that it doesn't move around. Once you've done that, you're going to fold it in half again. So I would do this on the floor or a large table so that you make sure that your fabric is nice and smooth and that there's no wrinkles. Now fold it in half again, making sure it's nice and smooth, and then you're going to fold it in half once more. Once finished folding, it should look like a very narrow triangle with 8 pieces of fabric stacked on top of one another. Measure your waist and then add 2 to that measurement for seam allowance, and then you're going to divide that number by 8. That number that you end up with is the width that you'll go down the triangle. So I'm looking for 3.75. And then I'm taking a small dessert plate, and that is where I'm going to make the curve of the waist. Now I'm just making sure that my plate is in the right place, making sure it's about 19 inches from that line or from the edge of the dinner plate all the way to the hem. And then I used a piece of yellow chalk, so it's kind of hard for you to see, but it was enough for me to be able to trace the little curve of the plate and then cut through all 8 pieces of fabric until I had my waistband. So opening it up, you can see that I now have a really nice curve for the waist. Now we have to make a waistband, and I'm looking for fabric here that kind of goes with the skirt. I ended up going with this candy cane fabric. For the waistband, you'll want the length of the waistband to be about as long as you made the waist. So if you remember, I made mine 30 inches to allow for 2 inches of seam allowance. So I made this waistband about 30, 31 inches in length. And then as far as width, I made it 3.5 inches. And then you'll see I'm using something called a shirting fabric. My waistband fabric that I'm using is very, very thin. So I wanted to bulk it up a little bit so that it would be strong enough to hold the weight of the Christmas tree skirt. So that's why I added that shirting fabric, but you don't need to do that. If you have a fabric that's a little bit heavier in weight, you could go without doing that. So once you've got your waistband made, you're going to go ahead and fold it in half and iron it. And you'll see that I skipped a step that I didn't share with you, but I did iron that shirting fabric inside. It's one of those iron-on adhesives. Since it wasn't necessary, I just didn't throw it in there. Anyway, once you've got it ironed in half, you're basically going to make something called bias tape, which brings me to this. If you want to go the lazy route, which actually it's not lazy, it's just innovative, it's just time saving, you could go to the store and get you some really thick bias tape. Bias tape is not tape, it's actually fabric that's folded in half, just like what you see here, and then it's got 2 little seams on the end that are also folded inside, so that when the fabric tape or bias tape is closed, you can't see those raw edges because they're folded and tucked inside. That's what I'm making here, but you could, like I said, just buy some if you wanted to. All right, so here's my measurement. I folded it in half, and then I'm using about 1/2 inch little, I'll call this a hem at the bottom, and I'm doing this on both sides. This was a little, I don't know, tedious. It only took like 5 minutes, but it did take some time, which you could forgo if you just wanted to buy some bias tape. Now, what I'm doing here is I decided to go ahead and remove The bias tape, look at that. It's like tiny bias tape or regular size that was along the tied side or the side that you tied together of the Christmas tree skirt. I decided to remove it because I thought when I was sewing the zipper in, it might make a little weird bulk right there, and I just wanted to get it out of the way. This is a not necessary step. Your circle skirt might not even have this on there, but I included it just in case that it does, and also because, hey, it's bias tape. It's just a smaller scale. Once that was removed, it was time to add my waistband to the waist of the skirt. So what I'm going to do now is open up my waistband and then place the circle skirt right inside and pin it in place. Now, you could, if you wanted to, and it would probably be a little bit easier, have the fabric go all the way to the top of the folded waistband. So you could insert it all the way to the top. But you'll see here, I'm just inserting it about a half an inch in. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want my skirt to stay as long as possible. Usually my skirts, I wear them where they hit my knee, knowing that this is going to be a little bit shorter. I wanted to get as much length as I could. So that's why I just ended up putting it right at the bottom of the waistband. But to make life easier, you could just go all the way to the top. Once that was pinned in place, I went ahead and stitched it down so that it wouldn't come out. And so there you have, my waistband is now about to be attached to my skirt. So far, pretty easy, right? Not too bad, especially if you don't make your own waistband and you just use some bias tape. Or you could use ribbon, right? I mean, if you're only going to wear this like once or twice or once a year, does it really have to be a stitched masterpiece? I say no. I'm not going to judge you, and nobody else will either, because they're just going to be so smitten with how cute you are in your Christmas tree skirt. Okay, back to stitching. So here I am. Oh gosh, I need to figure out a better way to pin stuff in place, y'all, because I am forever trying to get fighting with these needles. They're sticking me and poking me. Anyway, I am slowly stitching along and then removing the needles as I go. Once your waistband is in place, then you're just left with putting in a zipper. Now, if putting in a zipper makes you stressed out, anxious, trust me, I get it. I'm going to walk you through most of the steps right here. So let's do it. First, you're going to pin the right sides of the opening of the skirt together so that there you see a little bit more clearly where I removed that small pink bias tape along the edge. And this is why, because I knew that it would get in the way when I was trying to put in the zipper. So you're just going to pin those together. I'm using a 10-inch zipper, and I'm snipping in place where the zipper will end. And now I'm going to stitch. Now where the zipper will go, I'm using a basting stitch, which is 5.0 on my little sewing machine. That just means that my stitches are nice and long and easy to remove. And the reason I want them easy to remove is because that's where the zipper will go, and I'll need to open up the skirt right there to free the zipper, shall we say. Now, where the zipper won't be at the bottom of the skirt, I switched my stitches back to a 2.5, which is just a regular stitch, and that way I won't be opening the skirt right there because there's no zipper. So I'm just going all the way down to the bottom of the skirt, and then make sure to stitch forward and backward a couple of times when I end it. Now, for some reason, I didn't film the zipper insert portion in its entirety. I swore I pressed the button to record, but I didn't. But anyway, here I am pinning my zipper in place. Again, there's probably a better way to do this. In the past, I've actually used tape to just hold the zipper in place, but now I use pins. And like I said, I'm probably going about this the wrong way, but this is how I do it. Okay, so I'm pinning the zipper in place. Notice I keep flipping the zipper up because I'm making sure the zipper seam matches up with the seam that I stitched. By the way, I did iron that seam open. Like I said, I skipped a couple steps. I'm sorry. And now that I've got that pinned in place, I'm going to put a pin on the other side of the skirt so I know where the bottom of the zipper is, because you definitely don't want to run over that with your needle because you'll bust a needle. So now what I'm going to do is head back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch my zipper in place. When I'm stitching my zipper in place, I don't even swap out for a zipper foot. But what I do have to do is sneak my hand under the skirt and pull out those pins. Like I said, there's probably a better way. So I'm just stitching all the way down one side of that zipper. And when I get to the place where the pin is on the front of the skirt, because remember, that's where the zipper ends. There it is right there. Then I will turn my machine around. Not turn my machine around. I should say I'll turn the skirt. You'll see me do it in a second. Here it comes. And then I'm going to zip back up to the top of the skirt. Now, because the zipper pull makes such a big lump in the fabric, I did have to start about an inch below where the zipper pull is. If, by the way, you have a better method of putting in a zipper, you could just bypass this part of the video. I mean, really all I am is showing you how to put in a 10-inch zipper. Now I'm going all the way back up to the top of the skirt, but again, I have to give myself that inch of space from the top because that's where the zipper pull is, and that's where it kind of would make my sewing machine have a great big hiccup. So what I have to do is stitch all the way up to about an inch, take it off of the machine, and then using a seam ripper, go ahead and open up the seam, pull the zipper down, and then I'm going to sew where the top of the zipper was. This is why it would have been great if I had filmed it. Regardless, that's what I did to finish off. I don't even know what's filming here. There you see, I've pinned it in place to go ahead and finish stitching all the way to the top of the skirt, which I failed to film, but you do get to enjoy my dance moves here. So that's all there is to it. Yeah, I mean, the great thing is that the thing is already hemmed at the bottom. So all you have to do is figure out the size of your waist using my little bit of math. Go ahead, make yourself a waistband, add a zipper, and you have just made yourself a tree skirt to a lady skirt. Have fun, guys. Toodles.